Hello, this is Johanna McNeil. I'm going to give you a quick presentation on taking a problem-based approach to learning. Problem-based learning, or PBL, underpins your assessments in this course, and you might find it helpful to get an overview of the process before you try and apply it to the exercises that we are doing in class or over the discussion board. Why do we use PBL? Actually, problem-based learning underpins a lot of the assessment we do, particularly in the Master's program in Human Resource Management, because we think that it quite closely mirrors the way in which we are expected to understand and solve problems in the workplace. So it develops the sort of professional skills that you need and that you expect a Master's degree to help build in you. From the point of view of the students, they find it very helpful. First of all, it provides a very structured process for solving problems. For some of you, actually, what you'll find is PBL very closely mirrors the process you are using to solve problems at work already, and you'll be very comfortable with this process from the beginning. It'll make a lot of sense to you. For others, it might take a little bit more discipline, a little bit more time to get used to this particular approach to solving problems. But once you've mastered it, as I'm sure you will, you'll find it's very helpful not just in this course but in your other courses and at work. PBL is a really fabulous way to help students learn to link theory to practice, because basically it's about solving real life problems, but doing it in a way that draws on theory, that draws on evidence, as well as drawing on your practical experience and the experience of others addressing the same or similar kinds of problems. PBL is also designed to do in a group. This is a bit harder if you're working on a discussion board, but nevertheless, I strongly encourage you to try and tackle the problems that are presented to you in your course by drawing on the opinions and ideas of other people in your group. The nature of PBL is that there's no single right answer to any problem. There's only an answer that has good evidence and is well argued. And those sorts of answers are much more likely if you have listened to, considered and incorporated other people's ideas into your response. So you'll see there a couple of quotes. Students really do find that the problem-based learning approach helps them grasp the concepts in our discipline. There's an article that I've drawn on quite a lot for this presentation that is required reading for the introductory course in Human Resource Management that you can find via the library. It's actually an article for academics describing how students learn, particularly in management education. But if you're the type of person who likes to take the helicopter view and understand how you are learning, then you'll find this article particularly relevant. If you want any more resources on problem-based learning, just let me know. I'm happy to provide you with some. As a learning approach, PBL basically organises your learning around a real problem. So rather than a linear series of topics or concepts that you master and then move on, you're presented with a relatively unstructured problem, and part of the task, of course, is to learn how to define a problem as well as how to solve it, and to consider with a range of alternative solutions and the pros and cons of each. While it's a very specific problem, it's designed to represent the type of problems that you will face, so that learning how to tackle the problems you're presented with in this course will also be directly relevant to the sort of problems you face in the future. I will say my experience in the workplace is that it's very rare for your boss to come to you and say, here's all the data you will need to solve this problem, and here are the specific questions I would like you to answer, and here's the format in which I would like you to solve it. Off you go. much more likely that your boss comes to you and says, this issue has arisen, we need to find a way through it, let me know what you think. Or I went to a conference last week and it seems that, everybody's doing this thing, find out whether we should do it too. So problems are much more likely to be presented to you at work in a vague and ambiguous way, and part of your challenge is to define exactly what is the problem I'm trying to solve here, and then seek the best resources that will help inform your response, and then make a good argument for why your particular solution is one good way in which a problem could be approached. So that's what problem-based learning is about. The article talks about the various steps in the process. I have also provided to you a student guide to problem-based learning, which is posted on the Blackboard site, and that steps you through these various tasks and ways of learning along the problem-based learning cycle. In addition to that, I've provided you with a document called Conducting Practical Research for Problem-Based Learning. Your course outline provides you with a list of academic journals that are particularly helpful in the discipline you're studying, and you should certainly draw on those as critical academic sources. But for problem-based learning, we also need to source practical data, practical evidence, government reports, opinions of stakeholders, Bureau of Statistics data. There's a long list of sources that can contribute to the evidence that you're collecting to help inform your response. So those two additional documents you'll find particularly helpful. How do you go about structuring a PBL process? The way PBL scenarios are structured is that you're provided with minimal information about what potentially is a very complex problem. It's incredibly helpful if you use some method to record your ideas as they evolve. Particularly useful if you're working in a group to keep good notes and exchange them so that you can see how your ideas are evolving, where evidence suggests that some of your ideas need to be amended or discarded. Basically co-constructing knowledge with your peers so that you can come to a better solution. Another important aspect of the PBL process is that you need to stand back and reflect periodically on whether your ideas are actually good ones. And if you're not sure about them, what else you need to learn and where you need to find that data so that you can make sure that whatever you are proposing as your solution to a particular problem is actually rigorous and well argued. It's also a point at the end of the process where it's really important to reflect on your own learning. It might be reflecting on how well you worked within a group, but also reflecting on how you learnt, how that process worked for you, what parts of it you found difficult or challenging, whether the feedback that you receive on your work makes sense to you, and what you can do to improve next time you do it. The specific PBL process, though, I find very helpful for students if they look at it in this way, as being separated into 4 columns, if you like, that allow you to separate various aspects of the PBL process. So, to begin, the first thing that you should be recording is, what do you actually know? So from your very limited scenario, what are the facts that you can glean from this scenario about what the problem is, where it's occurred, what's actually happening? You need to be very careful at that point, only to record what it is you know, not what it is you're speculating might be the case, because those ideas are more likely to be your hypotheses. So the next column then is your ideas or your hypotheses about what you think is interesting or important, what you think might begin to start to explain what is happening in the facts of the case. Now, at early stages, these ideas might only be a couple of words rather than real hypotheses. They're really just topics that you think it's important or relevant to explore. but obviously topics that relate in some way to what might eventually become a solution to the scenario. The next column are your learning issues. Here are the things you need to learn more about. What questions do you need to have answered in order to start to understand more and explore more your ideas? And finally is your action plan. This isn't the action plan for the scenario, this is the action plan for you, which is how are you going to go about getting the additional information or resolving the problem. So often this will be, where will I look for particular information? To whom will I talk? How will I share that information amongst my group so that we can all benefit from each other's different interests and expertise? So the action plan is your action plan for going through the problem-based learning process. This is another, perhaps a little bit more concrete way to represent those 4 columns. So the first column, the facts, is what do you know? What are the actual facts of the case? The second column, ideas, what do you think is interesting or important about this scenario? The third column, your learning issues, what do you need to know more about? And the final column, your action plan, how are you and the people you're working with going to find out more about your learning issues? Where will you look? Who will you ask? This is a linear process, as you can see from left to right. The point about the problem-based learning cycle is that once you've completed your action plan, you now have a whole lot of new facts to add to your collection. So now you're going through the second round of the cycle. What do I know now that I didn't know before? What are the new facts that can now inform the development of my ideas that now lead me to having to learn more about particular issues, and on again to the action plan. Hence the notion of the problem-based learning cycle. So, cycle 2 and 3 and 4, it's my strong recommendation that you should go through the problem-based learning cycle a minimum of 3 times. And if it's a problem with which you are very unfamiliar or you don't have a lot of work experience to bring to it, 4 times. What you'll find is that each time you go through the cycle, you are building stronger ideas or hypotheses about how to define and address the problem. You are gathering better evidence and informing your ideas with stronger theory. And basically, through going through the PBL cycle, ending up with a much more rigorous, well-evidenced, well-argued solution. Only when you've finished all of your learning should you write up your PBL work. And as I say, going through that PBL cycle at least 3 times, you should now, before you begin to write, have worked out the exact nature of the problem you're addressing and be able to explain that in your introduction. You should have developed and tested some very specific ideas or hypotheses about the nature of the problem and or how to solve it. Have collected good theory and good evidence that relate to and help you expand on your ideas, and evaluated that theory and evidence. So you're clearly putting the most weight on that which is more rigorous, more reliable, more relevant. And in doing all of this, you have prepared yourself to make an argument, which is what makes your problem-based learning response so much more rigorous. And then and only then should you write up your report.